In today's interconnected world, the products we use and consume often come from all corners of the globe. We can enjoy Kenyan coffee with our breakfast, wear clothes made in Bangladesh, and drive cars manufactured in Japan. This global exchange of goods and services is a defining feature of our modern economy, a complex web of trade routes and agreements that connect nations and consumers. But this intricate dance of imports and exports doesn't happen by chance. It's governed by a set of rules, agreements, and sometimes barriers that shape the flow of goods across borders. Tariffs, at their core, represent a delicate balancing act. They are a tool by which governments aim to protect domestic industries from foreign competition, nurture nascent sectors, and generate revenue to fund public services. By increasing the price of imported goods, tariffs make domestically produced goods more appealing to consumers, offering a degree of shielding from the often fierce winds of international competition. In the following sections, we will embark on a journey to unpack the multifaceted impact of tariffs. We'll delve into the different types of tariffs employed by governments, each with its own set of objectives and consequences. From ad valorem tariffs, levied as a percentage of the value of imported goods, to specific tariffs imposed as a fixed fee per unit, we'll explore the mechanics of these economic instruments and their varying effects on trade flows. At their essence, tariffs are taxes levied on goods as they cross national borders, specifically when goods are imported from one country into another. Imagine a shipment of Italian leather handbags arriving at a U.S. port. Upon arrival, U.S. customs officials would assess a tariff or an import duty on those handbags, increasing their cost before they even reach store shelves. This seemingly simple act of adding a tax to imported goods has profound implications for businesses, consumers, and the overall flow of international trade. Tariffs alter the price dynamics of goods, making imported products more expensive relative to domestically produced alternatives. This price differential can influence consumer choices, potentially swaying them towards domestic goods, thereby providing a degree of protection for domestic industries. One of the primary motivations behind implementing tariffs is the desire to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. When a country imposes a tariff on a particular good, it effectively raises the price of that good when it enters the domestic market. This price increase makes domestically produced versions of that good more competitive, as consumers become more likely to choose the relatively cheaper domestic option. Beyond their protective function, tariffs have historically played a significant role as a source of government revenue. In the early days of many nations, before the advent of sophisticated income tax systems, tariffs were a primary means for governments to fund their operations. One of the most common types of tariffs encountered in international trade is the ad valorem tariff. The term ad valorem is Latin for according to value, and this type of tariff lives up to its name. Ad valorem tariffs are calculated as a percentage of the value of the imported goods. For instance, if a country imposes a 10% ad valorem tariff on imported automobiles, a car valued at $20,000 would incur a tariff of $2,000 at the border. Section 2. Specific tariffs, fixed fees per unit. In contrast to ad valorem tariffs, which are based on a percentage of value, specific tariffs adopt a more straightforward approach. Specific tariffs involve imposing a fixed fee per unit of imported goods, regardless of their value. This means that whether an imported item is a high-end luxury product or a low-cost commodity, the specific tariff applied will be the same for each unit. For example, a country might impose a specific tariff of $5 per barrel of imported crude oil. This fixed fee would apply to every barrel of oil entering the country, irrespective of fluctuations in the global oil price. This characteristic of specific tariffs makes them relatively simple to administer, as customs officials only need to determine the quantity of goods being imported to calculate the tariff amount. Section 3. Retaliatory tariffs, a delicate balancing act. Beyond ad valorem and specific tariffs, which are often implemented for economic or protectionist reasons, retaliatory tariffs represent a more strategic and potentially contentious tool in the realm of international trade. Retaliatory tariffs, as their name suggests, are imposed by one country in response to perceived unfair trade practices or tariff barriers erected by another country. Section 1. The price effect, a ripple through the economy. The most immediate and tangible impact of tariffs is their effect on prices. When a tariff is imposed on an imported good, its price in the domestic market increases. This price hike is a direct result of the tariff itself, which acts as an additional cost for businesses importing those goods. These businesses, in turn, often pass on this increased cost to consumers in the form of higher prices. Imagine, for instance, a tariff on imported washing machines. As a result of the tariff, the price of these imported machines rises. Consumers, now faced with higher prices for imported washing machines, might choose to purchase domestically produced machines, even if they were initially slightly more expensive. This shift in demand towards domestic goods is a key objective of protectionist tariff policies, aiming to shield domestic industries from foreign competition. Section 2. Winners and losers, the distributional impact of tariffs. While tariffs can have broad-reaching effects on an economy, it's crucial to recognize that their impact is not evenly distributed. Some groups benefit from tariffs, while others bear the brunt of their costs. Understanding this distributional impact is essential for comprehending the political economy of tariffs and the often contentious debates surrounding their implementation. Section 3. The shadow of retaliation, trade wars and their consequences. The implementation of tariffs, especially when perceived as unfair or protectionist by trading partners, often casts a long shadow of retaliation. In the intricate dance of international trade, where countries are interconnected through complex webs of agreements and interdependence, the actions of one nation can trigger a cascade of responses from others. When one country imposes tariffs on goods from another, the targeted country might retaliate by imposing its own tariffs on goods from the initial aggressor. This tit-for-tat exchange of tariff hikes can quickly escalate into a trade war, where barriers to trade rise on both sides, disrupting the flow of goods and services and harming businesses and consumers in both countries. Section 4. Beyond the balance sheet, the broader economic impacts. The economic consequences of tariffs extend far beyond the immediate impacts on prices, trade flows, and government revenue. Tariffs can have profound long-term effects on innovation, efficiency, and the overall competitiveness of an economy. While tariffs can provide a temporary shield for domestic industries, shielding them from the full force of international competition, this protection can come at a cost. Without the constant pressure to innovate, improve efficiency, and reduce costs to remain competitive, domestic industries might become complacent, potentially hindering long-term economic growth and innovation. In the aftermath of the American Revolution, the newly formed United States faced the daunting task of establishing a stable and sustainable financial system. The fledgling nation, eager to assert its independence and foster its own industries, turned to a familiar tool to generate revenue and protect its economic interests: tariffs. The Tariff Act of 1789, one of the first pieces of legislation passed by the newly established Congress, laid the groundwork for a tariff-based revenue system that would shape the nation's economic landscape for over a century. This act, championed by Alexander Hamilton, the nation's first Secretary of the Treasury, imposed tariffs on a wide range of imported goods, aiming to generate revenue for the cash-strapped government and provide a degree of protection for nascent American industries. As the United States matured as a nation, expanding westward and undergoing rapid industrialization, the debate surrounding tariffs intensified, often reflecting deep divisions along regional and economic lines. The North, with its growing manufacturing base, increasingly favored protectionist tariffs to shield its industries from foreign competition, particularly from established European powers. The South, however, heavily reliant on exporting agricultural products like cotton and tobacco, viewed tariffs with suspicion and often outright hostility. As the 19th century drew to a close and the United States emerged as a global economic power, the nature of its revenue system began to shift. The growing complexity of the economy, coupled with the increasing demands for public services and infrastructure investments, exposed the limitations of a tariff-based revenue system. The call for a more stable and equitable form of taxation gained momentum, leading to the passage of the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. While the advent of income tax and other forms of taxation diminished the role of tariffs as the primary source of government revenue in many developed nations, tariffs have hardly faded into obscurity. They continue to hold a prominent place in the arsenal of economic policy tools wielded by governments to protect domestic industries, influence trade flows, and exert leverage in international negotiations. From the bustling ports of Shanghai to the boardrooms of multinational corporations, tariffs remain a potent force, shaping the dynamics of global trade and influencing the prices of goods that consumers around the world rely on. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that the implementation of tariffs rarely occurs in a vacuum. The decision by one country to impose tariffs on goods from another can trigger a domino effect, prompting retaliatory measures and potentially igniting trade wars that disrupt global supply chains, increase prices for consumers, and inject uncertainty into the global marketplace. The imposition of tariffs often serves as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations, a means for countries to exert pressure and extract concessions from their trading partners. The recent trade tensions between the United States and China, two economic giants whose actions reverberate throughout the global economy, provide a stark illustration of the complex and often contentious role of tariffs in the 21st century. What began as a series of targeted tariffs imposed by the Trump administration on Chinese imports quickly escalated into a full-blown trade war, with both countries levying tariffs on billions of dollars worth of goods. Section 4. The Future of Tariffs. Navigating a Complex Landscape. Predicting the future of tariffs in an increasingly interconnected and rapidly evolving global economy is a daunting task. The forces shaping international trade are complex and multifaceted, influenced by technological advancements, shifting geopolitical alliances, and the ever-present desire for economic growth and security. While the specter of protectionism and trade wars looms large, there are also encouraging signs of cooperation and a recognition that global challenges, such as climate change and pandemics, require collaborative solutions. Section 1. The Two Sides of the Tariff Coin. As we've journeyed through the intricate world of tariffs from their historical roots as a primary source of government revenue to their modern-day role as strategic instruments of trade policy, one overarching theme emerges: the inherent duality of these economic tools. Like a coin with two distinct sides, tariffs present both potential benefits and drawbacks, their impact rippling through economies, shaping industries, and influencing the lives of consumers around the world. On one side of the coin, we see the allure of protectionism, the desire to shield domestic industries and jobs from the relentless winds of global competition. Tariffs, by increasing the price of imported goods, can provide a buffer for domestic producers, offering them a degree of breathing room to compete, innovate, and thrive. This protective impulse is particularly strong in sectors deemed vital to a nation's economic health or national security, where the preservation of domestic production capacity is deemed paramount. Section 2. The Tariff Tightrope, a Delicate Balancing Act. The challenge for policymakers then lies in navigating the intricate tightrope between the potential benefits and drawbacks of tariffs. Setting tariff levels too high, while perhaps offering a temporary boost to certain domestic industries, can stifle competition, inflate prices for consumers, and invite retaliatory measures from trading partners, potentially igniting damaging trade wars that harm all parties involved. Conversely, embracing a completely tariff-free approach, while ideologically appealing to proponents of unfettered free trade, can leave domestic industries vulnerable to sudden surges in imports, potentially leading to job losses, factory closures, and economic disruption. Section 3. Charting a course: Tariffs in a globalized world. As we look ahead, the role of tariffs in a globalized world is likely to remain a subject of intense debate, a focal point for economic anxieties, political maneuvering, and the ongoing struggle to reconcile national interests with the imperatives of a globalized economy. The forces shaping international trade are complex and ever-evolving, influenced by technological advancements, shifting geopolitical alliances, and the persistent challenges of inequality, climate change, and global health crises. Navigating this complex landscape requires a nuanced understanding of the multifaceted impact of tariffs, moving beyond simplistic narratives of protectionism versus free trade.